Welcome.
Thank you very much, Alexander. I'm very happy to join the webinar today, to have the opportunity to show to the academic cat lovers everything that we can offer. Actually, I prepared a little presentation for you with which we will start. And afterwards, I'm going to show you the main features of our tool directly inside of the tool. Let's see. What Alexander already said is that I'm a translator myself. And luckily and fortunately, at my university in Heidelberg, Germany, I had a very smart teacher, let's say it like that, who offered a kind of teamwork project, a localization project during one semester. And what we did there exactly is what I'm going to show you, because I think it's a very good idea to implement in university, to start working as in university, as there is a very good bond between business and universities. We're going to have a look at that later on. First of all, I want to explain to you what is Across, or who is Across. We are a small, or rather small, software company that was founded 10 years ago, and we are situated in a small village in the south of Germany. Let's say near Munich, but not really near Munich, but in the south of Germany, in some forest. So it's very idyllic here. I like the environment where I can work. And this way we can focus on producing good software very well. What you can also see is that we currently have around about 27,000 registered freelance translators all over the world working with our tool. And every month, approximately 300 students register to use the tool, and approximately 600 freelance translators registered to use it freely as well. Furthermore, we have so-called client-server installations, and maybe it sounds a little strange by now, but I'm going to explain to you what it is and why it may be also very useful for you in your universities. Furthermore, I'm going to explain to you our academic program. I'm going to tell you something about our free academic licenses and where to find free webinars, tutorials, documentation, and so on, so you can learn how to use Across profoundly. This is this Across language server. So this is what I'm going to explain first of all, just in like plain some technical words. What is a server? A server is in the end like some central station where you connect from different computers to, and you can work with the same central storage of data. Data in this kind means, for example, pairs of sentences in a language combination, for example, like Ukrainian and English. So you translate documents from Ukrainian to English, from English to Italian, from Italian to French, whatever you want to, and Across stores all these data in a translation memory in a central storage where everyone can connect to and reuse it. That's very important to know. Furthermore, there's a very mighty terminology module which you can use. So you can work with different term databases, work on different terminologies, and make them available to whomever you want to. The accesses to this so-called Across language server can be from inside the university. So maybe you have like a computers room where everyone can then connect to the Across language server and start working in it. Or you can also connect to it from outside the university. This is, for example, something that we did during the project during my studies. So as homework, I often had to work at that project, and therefore I just connected from my personal computer at my home to this university server and continued working in the project. Of course, as I already said, there's also the translation memory, so the big database which contains lots of sentence pairs in different language combinations, and you can also do project management inside of the Across Language Server. Furthermore, there's also the so-called Across Personal Edition. In contrast to the Across Language Server, the Personal Edition is a so-called standalone version, which means it's only meant for one user. So this is something that we give to students for free and also to freelance translators. So everyone who wants to use that just needs to register on our website. And afterwards, you can just download the software and start working in it. Here again, you have the same mighty terminology module that you can use to create your own terminologies. You have the possibility to create a translation memory, so this sentence database, and you also can do your own project management. Where you can download and find all the information, I'm going to show you afterwards. Now I'm going to shortly explain what we did in that team localization project during my studies at the University of Heidelberg. The University of Heidelberg uses the Across Language Server for quite a long time now, so for many years. I think they nearly started directly from when Across was created, so like in 2005 or 2006 they started installing Across, and since then they use it also during the studies. First of all, we built teams of 2 to 3 students, and as we were Italian translators, we had to search for companies in Italy and ask them whether we may translate their business websites. Of course, there were some people or persons who liked the idea and allowed us to translate their websites in the time of in the period of one semester. These websites were then imported into the Across Language Server. And afterwards, we started a localization cycle according to the norm 15038. So this means that we did not only a translation, but we also did a proofreading, and afterwards there was a correction, and afterwards there was some kind of releasing step, which was done by our professor. All of this can be set up perfectly in the Across Language Server. So we have different tasks, a translation task, a proofreading task, and a correction task. And these teams of 2 to 3 students, they just shared these tasks. So one team started with the translation task and then continued to proofread the translation of another student's team. And in the last step, you got back the proofread documents or translation of your colleagues' teams, and you started correcting it again inside of Across. So in the end, what we had and what we saw was an entire project management cycle, which was, in the end, very similar to what happens in reality. So to what happens when students start working as real translators or project managers in real life. For example, at an LSP. An LSP is a language service provider, so a translation service provider, it's that what Alexander is doing. Here you can just see a small example from what we did. So this is just an excerpt from the website that we translated from Italian to German, and what you can also see is that everything, including formatting and pictures and everything, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. You can just take the German translation and put it onto the website of this Italian business. What did we learn from it, and why is it something that you as a university can only benefit from? At the beginning, we had to self-organize ourselves. So we as students, we had to check for possible customers. We had to make sure that we get the right documents to be translated. We had to organize in teams, so we had to decide with whom to work in a team. That's why we had to do some teamwork, which is also very, very important in the translation business. And in the end, it was very, very similar to the real working life. Because what we had to do, we had a deadline until we had to translate all the documents. And it was up to us to make sure that we meet this deadline. As I already said before, it was a real localization cycle. Localization cycle in this means that we had the translation, afterwards we had a proofreading, and afterwards we had a correction. So in the end we had like not a perfect document, but as perfect as possible. This means that there was also a lot of practical relevance in that project that we did at the University of Heidelberg, because it met the real demands of the market. I don't know about you, but in some of my courses, it was like, let's say, very theoretical. It was that we translated, for example, newspaper articles, but in real life, you may never translate a newspaper article. In real life, you translate maybe business websites, and you translate a lot of manuals, technical stuff, and so on. So it was not something very fancy, but it was real market demands that we met. And in the end, of course, as we knew that we would produce public results, it motivated us a lot to do good work, because in the end, it was also something that we could maybe enter in our CVs to, in the end, or to then after the studies, show to potential agency where we want to start working. Now we saw the theoretical part of it, so in the end what we did, but I want to show it to you how it looks like in Across itself. Therefore, I'm going to switch quickly and finish the presentation for a moment. Go into my virtual machine and show you what we can do here. First of all, I'm going to log into Across as Professor Dr. Translation. So this is the professor who makes sure that the project is ready. The project in Across is where everything starts from. So what we can see right now is the interface of Across, and we switch directly to the project management. This is important because this is where you manage the documents that need to be translated. And what I did here is importing the document that needs to be translated and tell Across in what target languages I want to translate that document. You see, in my case, it's a German document that needs to be translated into English, French, and Ukrainian. So this is what the professor may prepare. Create a project, import the documents, and afterwards assign the tasks to his or her students. Therefore, I switch from the project management module to the tasks module. And now what you can see is that Across automatically created lots of tasks for my students. See, this is a document that needs to be translated. This is my project. And if you may now wonder why there are so many tasks, though there are only 3 target languages, the answer is very easy. Because, as I told you, we had that localization project according to EN 15038, which means that there is not only a translation task, but also proofreading and a correction. And in the end, there should also be a release task. That's why we have 3 document translation tasks, 3 document review tasks, so the proofreading, and 3 correction tasks. And all the professor has to do now is to tell which of his or her students is working on which of these tasks. You see now, sorry, this is not what I wanted to do. What I did is creating some users. So there are the users students 1 to student 8, and the professor just tells across who of his students is going to work on which task. This is very easily done by just choosing or selecting one of the tasks and then telling across. This is done by student 4, for example. So far, so good. Now I'm going to switch to the role of a student. So I'm going to close Across now as professor, and we'll come back to my student times and log in as a student. So I can directly start working on the tasks that were assigned to me. And as I told you before, these tasks can be worked on either directly inside of the universities in your computer pools, or also from outside as homework from the personal computer that's at home of the students. I can now go to my tasks, and what we will see now is the task that my professor assigned to me, give to me from outside of from this project. We have a translation task, we have a review task, and we have a correction task. See, also with different target languages, but also just maybe different documents. It's completely depending on you. To show you how such a task would look like for the student when translating, I'm going to open that by, for example, just double-clicking on it. And then the so-called translators environment is opening. Just to give you a quick overview of what we see here, this is where the text is typed into or reused from the sentence database, from the translation memory. Here you have access to the terms that you have created before. So maybe to your different terminologies that you also want to see during your translation to make sure that you always work with the right terminology. And this is just for you to see your source document and your target document. And everything that needs to be done is just go through the entire document and start translating. In case someone else or you yourself already created a sentence pair and it was stored into the translation memory, into the central data storage with the sentence pairs, these translations can also be easily reused by, for example, just double-clicking on them. Then you jump into the next paragraph. You may only read it, proofread it, see whether there are any problems or any things that need to be changed. In that case, of course, it can be easily done. You just type whatever you want to type. And this way, you just work yourself through the entire document. Whenever there is a term that you might want to use, you can just do that. Again, by double-clicking on the term, and you see it's automatically inserted at the position of your cursor in the so-called target editor. So this is the area where you put your translations into. Everything very easy. As this is a normal text, I'm not going to write it like that, but like that. Completely up to you. Once the translation task is finished, and it's not yet, because you see here, for example, a translation is missing. But oh, I'm very lucky because some of my other students, team colleagues, or maybe also someone else from the university already translated something like that. I can just reuse this translation. In this case, I'm going to correct it a little. Sometimes it's not only 100% matches, of course, that you see here, but also so-called fuzzy matches, so very similar sentences, but not exactly the same sentences. In this way, you work through the entire document. Once you're finished, like I am now, I'm going to confirm all these translations by giving them a special state, which is called translated. Coming back to that later on. So now everything is confirmed, and by confirming a translation, it is stored into the central data storage, so into the central sentence database, and can be reused by everyone else. And once this is done, I can finish the task. Finishing a task is very important because afterwards, the next team of students can start working with their proofreading. Of course, the translation needs to be finished before they can start the proofreading. And once the proofreading is finished, the next team can start with the correction and see whether the suggested changes by the proofreader may be worked into the text or not. In case you want to see, for example, the document, how it would look like once it is translated, so your target document in the real document type, no problem at all. Here you have possibilities to quickly create a so-called target preview. It takes a moment, and Across opens Word and shows you the target document, how it would look like afterwards. You see? Of course, if it would be an XML file, if it would be an Excel table, if it would be a PowerPoint presentation, it would look, or it would open then in a PowerPoint or in an Excel, or maybe in a Notepad++ or an XML editor, whatever you want. Across tries to open the editor with which the original document was created. Here, what you should know is that Across can handle lots of different document types, not only Word, but all kinds of document types can be imported in Across and exported again, of course. So now I'm going to finish the translation task. It vanishes from my tasks overview. And now the other student could start working on the proofreading task. In the end, that's all. The professor would now also get a small notification that this translation task is finished, and he can now assign the proofreading task to the next student, and so on until all the tasks are finished. Then the project is finished. The documents can be exported from Across and given to the customer. In this case, we just exported, or in my case, we just exported the translated websites and gave them back to the Italian businesses, and then they published them on their websites. So this is, in a very short cycle, this is what we did at the University of Heidelberg, and which, in my opinion, is a very nice way of starting and doing a translation localization team project in an academic environment. I'm going to log out as student again and log in as the professor again. While Across is loading, I'm just going to show you quickly where you can find lots of information regarding Across. Therefore, I opened lots of our websites, and just let me click on all these messages. What I'm going to show you by now is, first of all, this is our official website. It's www.across.net. And within the area customers and partners, you'll find the area universities. Here you'll find all the information regarding our academic program. This, by the way, is the text we just translated. You find contact information, you find information on which university are already working with Across. You also find information on where you could study translation, where you can study technical editing. So you find lots of information regarding the entire academic environment and everything that has to do with Across and universities. Yeah, you can just, for example, click here and find all kind of universities in Germany and Europe, US, and so on. Furthermore, there is a huge knowledge base on our website where you can find everything that is well thought to enhance your knowledge on using Across, starting from a video library on YouTube to white papers where you find lots of information. What is a translation memory system? What is terminology good for? Why you should use CAT tools and so on. So there is lots of white papers. They have nothing to do with Across, but they have to do with the, let's say, section we are working with. So it's mostly the translation section, everything that can be or should be known about it. Then there is, of course, a glossary regarding Across mostly. And when you just hover with your mouse here, you'll also find our FAQs. You'll find the documentation area where you find everything for the personal edition, but also for the language server, what's new documents. So whenever there is a new software release, a new version of our software, you'll find what's new in it. You'll find our system requirements. So what do you need in your university as hardware and as software to be able to work with Across? You'll find information on our support team. And there are also the quick starts. So when you start working with Across, I really recommend reading them because the main topics, the main modules of Across are explained in a very well way. So it's just good to start when working with Across. Also, when you're used to work with other CAT tools, this document may be useful for you, help you to, well, let's say, change your way of working to the way of working in Across. So I just recommend to scroll through these pages because here you'll find lots and lots of documentation. Now I'm going to switch to our other website that is dedicated to students and freelance translators. It's www.my-across.net. Well, in case it looks different next week, don't wonder, that's on purpose because there will be a new website soon. Here, for example, you again find a training center. In the training center, you find interactive tutorials that guide you through different modules in Across, like with step-by-step videos. Whenever there are webinars offered to translators, you'll find them here. Again, there's also a documentation center. This documentation center includes the same documents as we have seen on the other website, but these are dedicated to the freelance translators and to students. And in the end, you'll find the download link for the personal edition, which is free of charge for students and for freelance translators. All they have to do is to register, and that's all. you'll get a license key from us, and with that license key and the downloaded file, you can just start working in Across. Okay, actually, that's everything I wanted to show you. Quickly giving you a short run through Across and through the possibilities you have with Across. Maybe I add again that for university we offer free licenses. So in case you are interested in working with such an Across language server, just contact us. I'll show you where. And we're going to provide you with free licenses. Here is the contact, and again, the 2 websites where you find lots and lots of information. And whenever you have questions and you want to post these questions directly to me, just write at trainings@across.net. And I can hear and see that Alexander is back in the webinar. Hi.
Right. Hi. It was great. So I'm puzzled to have the greatest number of questions out of all the webinars within the program so far. So it's a good sign. But before we get down to the questions that the audience wrote, I will probably take an advantage of being a co-organizer and will ask a question from myself, since actually it's very interesting for me to know what was the discipline, what was the name of the subject within which you tried this project approach. It's really interesting for me as a teacher.
Actually, it was a normal translation course that we had in the Italian department. And my professor was quite young. And let's say instead of giving us the, newspaper article number 110, he decided to do it this way and asked us to translate websites. So it was even HTML that we translated. For Across, it doesn't matter. In the end, for translators, it looks the same whether I translate HTML or docx. It doesn't make any difference. But to be honest, for me, it was one of the best courses I had at the university because it was very different to all the rest, and it was so close to reality, if I can say it like that. So we really did not only enhance or improve our translation skills, but we also learned so much more around it. You know, it was not only, okay, here you can translate, and yes, maybe here you should use another word. It was more like, okay, that's your aim. How do you get there? How do you get there? How do you contact a customer? How do you get the correct files? How do you get them into Across? How do we manage the teams and everything? So it was, in the end, it was a perfect experience. I liked it a lot.
Thank you for this answer. So there is a number of questions more, and the first is, which actually is repeated for several times, is how could students get a free academic license in Across? And also combined with another question, I'm a student of a translation department. Who should I address to get a Across personal edition, which is free of charge for students?
Yeah.
So both questions are practically the same.
Let me just go back to the website, because the website in the end is all that we need. All you have to do is to register here. And then see here, please register. Well, it's well hidden. I guess with the new website it will be better visible. You just click here and you fill in the data, and afterwards you will get a license from my colleague. She will send it to you, and this license you just import in your trial version of Across and you can start working. And these licenses are unlimited.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yes, and another question. How long, it's rather interesting from a student, I guess. I'm sure. How long does it take to master using the program for us to be able to use it professionally?
Well, this answer, answer it in a very personal way, because this is what happened to me. Actually, one of our professors just mentioned during one of our university courses that Across is for free for students, and instead of other tools where we had to pay for. And actually, I had not too much money when I was a student, and therefore I decided to just download Across and start working with it. And every document I got from our teachers and our professors, I just imported it into Across and tested, because when you're a student, you have time to do it like in a very calmly way. Once you enter the real market, once you start working for an agency, you do not have to. You do not have too much time to learn it in a very calm way. So in the end, what I did was learning by doing. I just imported everything and tried. So it's difficult to answer that question in a general way, because as I am a trainer, I know there are many different approaches to software. It's depending highly on the person who is working with the software. There are the very, very curious persons who are not afraid of using computers and softwares, and they learn Across very quickly. Whereas others may be a little more timid, and they are afraid of crashing Across or crashing their computer. Just don't be. Just start working with it. Just download it. It's for free. In the end, you cannot do something wrong. Just try using it, and you see what happened to me. I started working during my studies with Across, with the personal edition. Across got to know me during my studies. Accidentally, let's say it like that. They asked me to start working for them directly after the studies, so I did, and now I'm their trainer. So since then, it's like 4 years, I think. Now I know the software perfectly, but starting to work with it didn't take 4 years. It was just like I just started and it worked. So just try.
Maybe presupposing a question from teachers and students who have never encountered any kind of CAD at all. Can they rely on some backup, at least more general one, when they not to remain face-to-face with the CAD tool when they start mastering it? If it's not installed properly or something, can they just apply somebody on your site? And
there is, of course, our support team. So whenever there are technical problems, the support team will help you regarding, let's say, problems in using Across. Of course, there's still me. There's the training team. We will also, we offer webinars and everything. We also offer Q&A sessions where everyone can just register and ask whatever you want to ask. Then there is also this whole part of documentation, tutorials, wherever you find the videos on YouTube. So there's lots and lots of material. Again, maybe I want to add another experience from my trainings. I know it's not always a lot of time to do so, but in the end, the best way of learning how to use a software is not reading a lot, watching a lot, asking a lot, but trying. Yeah, I'm speaking very honestly here, because I just saw it in too many trainings. Some people join my trainings once and twice and the third time and the fourth time and so on, but they never start trying themselves, and they never start, let's say, using their own head and asking themselves, what does the software now need from me and how can I give it to it? This way you learn the software the best way. But of course, there is lots of support in technical issues as well as usage issues, lots of stuff on our websites, lots of webinars, the support team, and me.
Thank you, Lisa. Another question from Anne. Can a student or just a freelance translator get a certificate that proves his knowledge of Across? Is there any kind of certification?
Not yet. Not yet. What we have at the moment, it's called Cross Points. So it was a program that started some time ago. Here you can see it's a Cross Points, a cross qualification program. And for example, when you join a webinar and watch a webinar, when you have recommendations from someone, when you mention Across on your pros profile or something like that, there are different ways of getting cross points, and you can collect those cross points and they will then be added to your profile, which means that, and this is maybe the very interesting part here, our customers, you know, we have lots of customers buying across, big industrial customers, and they are regularly looking for translators, of course. And some of them also look on how many cross points do these translators have, because sometimes the cross points, well, show the experience someone has in a cross, but actually that's not always true, because we have lots of translators who do not care about the cross points and they just know a lot about a cross, but they have no cross points, and still everyone can work with them. So there is no certification program so far. There is this qualification program here. Yeah. And
when you first named it, the first idea that came across my mind is Crossed Fingers. A good name for another program, I guess.
Yeah, right. Good idea.
Okay, another question, I guess from a teacher now. Could you please describe the procedure of the request and receipt for free academic licenses from colleagues of universities? Who should we contact to request such licenses? I mean, I guess university academic licenses are presupposed. And what info should the letter contain, the emails from us? Thank you.
Good question. You just write an email to me or to trainings at Across, which is also coming to my desk. So in the end, it's the same. Asking for the licenses. What I just recommend you, because if you didn't, I will tell you. Yeah. Anyways, with my answer email, check the system requirements. Check whether your hardware and software on your university match the requirements of an installation of Across. You'll find the system requirements again on both of the websites without any problems. And what will happen then? I'm going to ask you how many licenses you need, whether you meet the system requirements. And what I'm also going to ask you is to sign a so-called NDA. And that's a so-called non-disclosure agreement. Yeah, this is what it's called. In the end, it's just like an agreement between the two of us, between the university and the Cross, where some rules are set up. Let's say it like that. Besides that, I will send you like a PDF file which describes and explains our academic program. And in the end, that's all.
Yes, just not to frighten the universities. I guess the NDA includes information for the universities not to use the CAD tool in commercial purposes, I guess.
Exactly.
So that's for free to be clear for everyone, which is natural.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because interestingly enough, we have universities who use Across for academic purposes, like during their courses, but also for commercial purposes, because they have like international websites and everything, so they also translate their own stuff with Across.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah.
Another question. Does Across license key have an expiration date?
No, it doesn't.
Ever, forever. Yes, for life.
Yeah. As long as you don't lose it. No, joking. If you lose it, we can give it back to you. No problem.
Okay, don't lose your keys. Yes, this is the best
Well,
answer.
there is one thing I just want to mention regarding full licenses for universities. They normally they are valid for 1 year, but it's absolutely no problem. You just write me an email and just tell me we are still working with the Across Language Server. Please make it valid for another year, and I will do so without any extra cost or something like that. I would just enlarge the validation.
Another question. What's the main difference between freeware and paid license? What advantages will I have when I buy the license?
None. There is no difference. The freelance version and the student's version is just for free. The personal edition is a little, let's say, if I say smaller, it always sounds as if there were not as many possibilities as you have in the Across Language Server, but that's not the point. It's just that in the Across Language Server, you have, for example, possibilities like the tasks assignment we just had. This is only because of the fact that here we do not only work with one user, but with multiple users on one system. Whereas with the standalone version, with the personal version, edition of Across, you only have one user, so that it's just not necessary. But when it comes to terminology, when it comes to your translation memory database, when it comes to project management, there is no difference.
Okay, another question, I guess, from a teacher. I have a question: if a professor needs to get certified to get free academic licenses, or it's enough just to confirm the representative of Across that the intention is to work with the licenses for teaching, not for commercial purposes, as I understand.
Yeah.
So what is it needed for, in other words, for a teacher to have some certification, or
No.
It's not a must?
No.
Okay, great.
You just get it if you ask for it.
And another question, is Across supported in Windows 10 operating system?
The current version, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So you're fast enough to, to get accommodated to new requirement of life.
Yeah. Yes, normally we try to. Sometimes it's quite hard, but normally we can do it.
Okay. As I see, some questions are repetitive. Some different people ask similar questions. If I haven't managed to notice some, dear colleagues, you may re-ask the question one more time. Since actually it seems to me we have covered all questions so far. Yes, so Olga that asked about certification, thanks you, Lisa. Any other questions, dear ladies and gentlemen? Okay, so I remind you that if you still have questions in mind or will have them later, you may direct them either directly to Lisa to mail her, or you may put it in our Facebook group, which is called Vox Translatorum, right under the poster, which is about the Across webinar that we are having now. And I'm sure Lisa will be happy to answer them, so you will get the answer anyway, and everyone see also the answer as well. Thank you very much, Lisa, for the participation in the program. It was really useful, even for me, having taught cats for some period of time. I have learned something new. I didn't expect to, frankly.
Great.
Yes, so it's really interesting. Thank you very much, and thank you much, colleagues. Thank you. See you next week.
Not me, but yes. It was a pleasure for me too. Thank you very much, and yeah, hope to hear from you.
Oh yes.
Have
yes.
a nice
I hope
weekend.
there will be some teachers that will contact you, I'm sure. Thank you. And bye-bye. All the best.
Bye.